Hi, welcome, welcome. I'm Dr. Lavella McGarry with lavellamcgarry.com. On tonight, I have TK Terrell with me on tonight. We are discussing removing the mask. I am excited.
Yes.
Again, tell a friend, share the link, get your girlfriend, somebody that needs to hear this message. I'm telling you, it's going to bless you, it's going to empower you, it's going to transform yet your life.
Mhm.
Again, share the link, tell a friend. So TK, just tell me a little bit about you and who you are. I'm going to turn the volume down
Okay, I need to turn my volume down.
just a little.
Okay, is that better?
That's better.
Okay. All right. Well, my name is Tahkyta TK Terrell. I am a author. I am an entrepreneur. I am a clinical trauma therapist, and I'm a mother. I'm a minister, and most importantly, I am God's special daughter.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
but I have been through a lot. I often tell people I do not look like what I have been through. And
Mm,
so that is just the grace of God that many people encounter and see on me. Because if you knew
yes.
my whole story, you would be like, dang, but that's just who I am. I love helping people. I love seeing people get healing, get breakthrough, right? I love seeing people be transformed. Transformed.
Yes.
Transformation is huge for me. So that's just a little bit about me.
Okay. And tell us a little bit about your practice, your
So,
field.
so
hmm
I am an EMDR.
Okay.
I'm
Uh-huh.
an EMDR therapist. What that is an eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. So what that means is that I use something that our brains are already doing. So when we go to sleep, our eyes, when we get into that REM sleep, our eyes already go back and forth, right?
Yes.
So when we are, what that is our brain is trying to process, our brain is
hmm
trying to kind of make sense of the day through
Okay.
dreams or through, um, kind of processing and thinking, right? That's why that
hmm
our eyes kind of dart back and forth. Well, what
Yes.
EMDR is it kind of takes the images, the thoughts that have developed and kind of stuck with us in our trauma
Yes.
and use that
Mm-hmm.
same sort of bilateral stimulation or dual
Mm,
attention while we're
yeah.
alert, while we're awake, and
Mm,
heal the memories of our trauma. So it's like
mm,
deliverance. It's a
yes.
deliverance ministry. It's not
Mm,
just me sitting there and waving my fingers back and forth and you following it. It really is a deliverance ministry. But what it is it's breakthrough, it's healing, and it's something
mhm,
that is sustained. It
mm,
lasts. You're not going to be in therapy 10-15 years. Most people are in
yeah.
therapy with EMDR for maybe 2 to 3 years, but I'm talking about deep, intense trauma. So that's kind of what I
Mhm.
do.
Oh my gosh. Keyword, deep, intense trauma. So again, for those that are here, please tell a friend, get sister, get girlfriend, sister girl, get your sister girl, get sister girl. We're dealing and we are removing the mask on today. And we're going to touch some very emotional issues or tender spots on today. Again, we're talking about removing the mask or what does it mean to drop the mask? What does it mean to drop the mask? When you said, what does it mean to drop the mask as a topic, TK, what did you mean by that?
So it kind of came from just like my own story. I often think about, I hear people say, like, okay, well, drop the wall, right? Well,
Yes.
we can drop the walls and start building boundaries and start talking about how to, better start living our lives from a more full perspective. So that
Yes.
means I'm starting to put boundaries around myself and I'm starting to let people in. But guess what? If I'm not being my real me, and I'm still
Mhm.
walking around with a mask, no matter how many walls I'm dropping, I'm still not being myself.
No. So how do one put boundaries around themselves but still let people in? You really don't. That's an inward struggle there.
Yeah. So what I mean by that is that, so boundaries, I always tell my clients that boundaries help not just you,
Mm,
they're not just for the people. They
come on.
protect you, they protect the other person, and it protects the relationship.
Mm.
So a lot of times what happens is we want to put boundaries on other people, but I got to know myself first. And
Yes.
so when I talk about putting boundaries around myself, I know if I go over old dude house after 10 o'clock, okay, we're going to have some grown folks conversation. If I know going over dude's house after 10 o'clock is going to lead to some activities that's going to make me feel bad about who I am the next morning and make me feel guilty and make me feel like I'm not worth it, then that's a boundary for myself that I need to set. And so boundaries aren't always about keeping people out. It protects you and the person and the relationship that we are trying to have. Even Jesus and even God puts boundaries around us. Boundaries protect us.
Yes, yes. So that's when one is struggling with self-will. No discipline. That's when one is struggling with self-will. Disciplinary issues. Because we all been there, done that. But when maturity sets in, that's when you raise the bar to your standards. And also you put again extra protective measure for your boundaries. Oh, this is good. Keep going. You said old dude activities. Keep going.
And so sorry, but those boundaries are so important. And so when we are talking about like dropping the mask, we've got to also realize that when we've got dropping the mask means I got to realize that I got to be myself. I can't just be so quick to drop a wall and not be ready to deal with me.
But what if they don't realize they have a mask though? And when you say mask, because I'm thinking right now we are in a society where some people can't leave their house without makeup, not realizing that that's a mask. So for those that don't realize that they're wearing a facade, they're wearing a coat, they're wearing a blazer, they're literally going out of their way to put on a protective measure to protect their hearts and as a shield. What are ways to identify those that are wearing masks but don't know it?
So, okay. If you are wearing a mask and a lot, so one of the things that I had to realize, sorry, I see some of my folks saying, hey y'all. So to recognize, if I have to motive, there we go. Thank you, Holy Spirit. Motive. You got to go to your motive. Why am I wearing this makeup? Is it to get validation from other people, or is it because I like the way my eyelashes look when I flutter them? Right? Is my motive different? What are my values? Right? Because I think about it like this: when you go to buy a company, when you go to the company can be in the red or the company can be in the black, right? If the company is in the red, then it's operating from a deficit. Okay? Follow. If the company is in the red, then it's in a deficit. The company's in the black, that means they're in a profit, right?
Yes.
So if I am always operating because I feel like if I don't wear this makeup, if I don't wear this, then people aren't going to accept me. If I don't wear this, if I don't look a certain way, then I'm not going to get the results or get what I want. Then baby, you operating from a deficit. That's a
so
mask.
When one is bankrupt. Bankrupt. Okay. Just it's too much going out of their way. And I'm going to put it this way, because someone will say, well, what's wrong with makeup? There's nothing wrong with makeup. Well, when you wear makeup, the makeup shouldn't alter you. Whatever you do, it enhances. So the beauty within will cause that makeup to radiate because of the beauty within. So there are those that are masking, putting on makeup to project or illuminate the beauty because they're empty or broken within. So when I say makeup, there's nothing wrong with it. Girl, do you wear your lashes? Do you wear your MAC, whatever, but whether you have makeup or not, you're still a beautiful queen. Okay, that's
Right.
the color of your melanin, everything, your lips, the thickness of your lips, your nose, everything about you, baby. You boo, you irradiate. You are that queen. But we're talking about dropping the mask. We're talking about dropping the mask. Oh, this is good. So give us signs or strategies even when it comes to tips for dropping the mask.
So one of the things that, like, when I was in prayer and asking God about this, it was like you've got to acknowledge that the mask is there for a purpose.
Mm,
And one of the things that and in terms of when for me specifically, my mask was to hide my trauma.
mm.
A lot of times we develop a mask. A mask is a defense mechanism. I'm sorry, hold on.
No, that's
Taylor.
fine. Keep going. You're good. Mm-hmm.
Um, a mask is a defense mechanism. It's
Mm,
something to hide, or we use it to hide from an invisible enemy like fear,
mm.
doubt,
Come on. Yes.
time loops. Like trauma can
Mm,
get us stuck in time loops where
mm,
in we are living in that situation, although that situation has long passed. It has been long gone, but I'm still stuck like in 1999, or I'm still stuck in 3 years ago, or I'm still stuck. I'm stuck. And so when you are hiding from this, you don't want to deal with it, you end up entering into agreement with the very thing you're
mm.
trying to hide from.
Come on. So they keep rehearsing that memory.
Exactly.
They keep replaying and they don't realize what they keep doing. Keep rehearsing or keep replaying that memory. It keeps triggering wounds.
Yeah.
And it keeps you in that time loop. So therefore, that's where arrested development come in. So
Right.
you're going to school, getting the degrees, you're doing everything to matriculate, advance yourself, but there's a cut of you that you just won't move on because you keep rehearsing what they said. You will never amount to nothing. You'll never be nothing. You are no good. You and this. Keep
Mhm.
triggering yourself, keep triggering the trauma is
Right.
becoming your narrative, and now you become stuck. So that's where that's one way they put on the mask. Mm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then, so one of the ways, so like when I was looking it up, like, so one of the biggest ways was like using paper mache, right? Because I use this
Mm.
in in the book, right?
Yeah.
In my chapter, I talk about
Mm-hmm.
paper mache.
Mm-hmm.
And so paper mache was not invented in France or in Europe. It was actually an ancient custom in China. And what it
Mm-hmm.
was used was to strengthen something. And so when
Yes.
I was praying about this, God was like, what we end up doing is we strengthen the negative narrative that we are trying
Mm.
to hide. We strengthen the negative thing that we don't want people to see. And so
Mm.
because we are strengthening it and we're entering into agreement, then we walk around and we parade it. We put makeup on it. We decorate it.
Mm.
And we want people to see this fake version of ourselves when, baby, you are God's workmanship. And that was never
Mm.
his design create. You were never designed to be that way. You were
Yes.
never created to look that way. But we get stuck
Mm.
because we've now strengthened it because we've entered into agreement with it.
Ooh. Mm.
Every
Mm.
label,
Mm.
every label, every shame. I saw someone said my mask is toughness, right? So
Mm-hmm.
guess what? Every time a situation comes up, you're rehearsing being
Yes.
tough when
Yes.
sometimes maybe the answer is a soft word.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But I'm being tough and I'm missing an opportunity that God has for me
Mm.
because I'm being too tough. But being too tough can be like it's a defense mechanism. It's the mask.
Yes.
The whole thing
It is.
about the mask is it's a false identity. You are walking around as a false version of yourself.
Mm.
Period. Point blank.
So could they be that they see vulnerability as a sign of weakness?
Yeah.
That's why they keep putting on this tough exterior.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not weak. I'm not weak. I don't want people to see that I'm broken. I don't want to be so. Therefore, they keep putting up this tough exterior. Mm.
Yeah, and I
But it
see that.
takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of energy to do that.
Mm-hmm. And I see it so much. I
Mhm.
see, I see, I don't just see, I see women, I see men, I see
Mm,
people who have strong, like I'm strong, I'm just strong, I'm so strong. We learn strong to be strong. Well, guess what? When we learn to be so strong, we learn to be so independent that we forget that we're supposed to be dependent on God.
yes.
We forget that we are supposed to learn to be in community. Like that's one of the ways that you heal it from wearing the mask. We've got to do it in community. We have to do it in relationship. Sometimes
Come
being
on.
in isolation was the worst thing I could have ever done for myself.
Mm,
Because that meant that I was sitting in my own mess, in my own
mhm,
thoughts, in my own situations, and I had nobody to be accountable to.
mm.
So
So
we
would you
have to
say that's the
recognize that
mindset of a victim? Would you say that's the mindset of a victim going into isolation? Would you say that's the mindset of a victim going into isolation and that they're having that pity? You know how they do have that pity party, feeling sorry
I
for
wouldn't go as
themselves?
I wouldn't go as far as to say that it's the mindset of a victim because I do think that depression is real. And I do, when you withdraw into yourself, that's a symptom of depression. I do think that there are other reasons as to why people can isolate and withdraw into themselves. But what
Okay,
I'm saying,
give a couple of the reasons why they could draw into themselves. You said
um,
depression is one.
so depression, um, yeah, depression is a big reason that people kind of isolate, feeling like I'm lonely, like
Mhm.
no one loves me, no one is there. I've had to do this all on my own, you know. Nobody cares. Um,
Mm,
people and that's I think a lot of times that's the tactic of the enemy is to get you off by yourself.
gotcha.
So I like
Mhm.
to reveal strategy and a strategy of the enemy. So I
Mm,
don't even look at it all the time as a mindset of a victim. I look at it as a strategy that the enemy uses to separate you from people and separate you from God. Because if I
that's
get her
beautiful.
by herself, if I
Come
get
on.
him by himself, then
Yes.
they
Yes.
don't have nobody to answer to. They don't have nobody holding them accountable. They don't have
Mm,
anybody around them to speak life into them. There's nobody around them. The only voice they hear is my voice. The only
mm.
voice they will hear is the voice of defeat. The only voice they will hear
Come on.
is the voice that's telling them they're not good enough. The only voice they will hear is the voice of the labels that has strengthened the
Mm,
mask.
mm, mm, mm. Oh, this is
That's
good.
the tactic.
Hmm. And they spend the time fortifying the mass
Mm-hmm.
to the point where it has become their identity.
Yeah,
Again, detaching them from the true essence of who they are. And a lot of them, in
exactly.
reality, don't want to be them because they prefer the masked identity.
Yes. What's crazy, Lavella, is when I do a lot of trauma work, especially when I'm doing the EMDR, the first thing we do is like,
Uh-huh.
Takara, I'm not sure I want to do this because what does it mean if I don't have this as a part of my identity anymore?
Yes.
What does
Because they
that
have to
mean
let
if I'm
they,
sorry, go ahead.
that which means they have to let go. It's an exchange. They have to let go of the lie, and now they have to now hold on to something. Let go of the lie, hold on to truth. And a lot of them do not want to face the truth because they don't want to accept it. No, that because they don't want to accept it. They don't want to accept that this is who I am. So they'll rather believe the narrative or the myth of I'm that perfected person. And then again, but that's deeply rooted though. That goes way back into childhood.
Hmm. A lot of it is, when we talk about core beliefs, right? That's what I believe
Yes.
about myself. That's
Yes.
what I believe about, and a lot of times what we believe about ourselves are the things that we've heard in our childhood,
Mm,
in our family of origin. And
yes.
so when we have mom or dad or grandma or someone who is abusive or someone who is mean or someone who is malicious, right? Telling you these things, then that becomes a part of our self-talk as a child, but we don't know it. We don't
Yes.
know that that becomes a part. Little kids are like sponges, right? I can remember when my daughter, she's 6 now. And anybody who knows her knows that Taylor is just, she loves herself because what she hears is mommy telling her, you are loved, you are blessed, you are highly favored, you are amazing. Who am I? You are amazing. And I tell her, and so one day she was looking in the mirror and and I remember, and I was just I was just blown away because she was just like, you are beautiful. You are so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And she was little, she was like 4. And
Yes.
she's 6 now, and she has such a high esteem of herself. But that's because her mother, me, planted seeds. I sowed positive words. I
Yeah.
spoke life into her. But if that is
Mm-hmm.
not your environment
Come
growing
on.
up, if that's not what you hear growing up, then
Mm.
you're going to start to rehearse that, and it's going to become a part of your identity. So a lot of the work that I do as a clinician is helping people to tear down these images that have been exalted in
Mm.
their minds, right?
Mm.
You're not good enough. You'll never
Yes.
be good enough. You're just like so-and-so. You're just like your daddy. You just like your mama. You just like your uncle who's the drug addict, right? You just like so-and-so. Well, if I'm just like them, then that means that my life is not worth it, or my life
Mm.
ain't worth living. And so
Yes.
then we have a job to do as clinicians or as therapists or as ministers, or, part of it is to help them to tear down these nation
Mm.
of images that have been erected in their mind that the enemy has a field day
Yes. Yes.
playing with, getting them in isolation, getting
Yes.
them off by themselves.
Mm. Mm.
But
Mm.
it starts in early development. It starts there. It's deeply, deeply rooted.
Mm. 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 So we're talking about the strategies that drops the mask. So we're going back to strategy one. This is so good, Rich. But I want them to walk away with the strategy because after a
Mm-hmm.
while, it becomes our norm. It becomes a part of our life.
Mm-hmm.
It's a part
It
of our
does.
lifestyle. And it's not, we don't know. And I said we because we don't know until someone starts poking and they start pointing. And they're like, do you know, do you realize? And they start speaking of what's obvious to them, but not obvious to, the individual. So what are the strategies that will help one drop the mask or the mask?
So I think I go back to the first one
Mhm.
is really just breaking the agreement.
Oh,
You got to break the agreement. You got to break up with it. You got to break. And what I mean by breaking the agreement,
yes.
I mean by acknowledging this internal, because sometimes the mask can be rooted in internal vows. And what those internal vows
Mm,
are: I'll never let this happen to me again.
yes.
I'll never let this happen to me again, right? And so we've got to break up with those internal vows that we've written with ourselves that God ain't had nothing to do with,
Yes.
right? And so we
Hmm.
have to acknowledge that this has never been a part of my identity.
Mm,
Even if I don't know who I am, and baby, it's okay. Even if you
hmm.
don't know who you are, there has to be a part of you that is willing to admit that this right here, this mask, that ain't it.
Hmm.
And you have to be willing to start the journey of figuring that out.
Hmm.
You don't have to
Mm.
know all the answers. You don't have to have it all figured out on day one. You ain't got to do that. But you have, the first thing is to be willing to say, this has never been a part. This was never supposed to be a part of my identity. And I got to break up with this.
Mm. But the forging of the relationship is that internal fight, saying that I will never, in reality, I will never lose my power again. You will never break me. You will never. So that internal forging of agreement comes from that internal fight of not wanting to be at that place or mental space again.
Yeah.
Mm.
Listen, when I was with I was in a relationship and it was very mentally abusive. And I promised myself that I would never, I need y'all to hear me. I promised myself, I promised Takara that I would never allow me to go through anything like that again. Now, I didn't say that from a healthy place. Okay. Because there's a difference between setting healthy boundaries in relationships and then just having a real strong cutoff game where you cutting off everybody and you sitting in the corner by yourself now.
That's true.
You see what I'm saying? Like there's a huge difference. And what I'm talking about is those internal vows that are created from a deep place of pain and not during the process of healing. Where you're learning how to execute boundaries and not you're learning how to set boundaries first of all and then you're learning how to enforce them, because guess what, when you start healing, people gonna recognize that you're changing. People are going to be like, oh, you're not the same person no more. Oh, you think you better than us? No, baby, I don't think I'm better than you, baby. I'm healing.
Come on, that's it.
And so you used to me allowing you to treat me any kind of way. And now that I'm standing up for myself, now you think I'm better than you. It ain't that, honey. It don't have nothing to do with that. I know my value and my worth. You cannot treat me like that anymore.
Self-preservation.
I can't hang around y'all like that no more because that's not who I am.
Yes.
I'm learning who I am. And so it's really about breaking that covenant, breaking that. Well, I wouldn't even say covenant, but I would say that contractual agreement is more like a contract.
Yes.
But guess what? Because of the authority that you have in Jesus Christ, if you are a believer, because first you got to have Jesus. Like that's the power that really is going to allow for you to be able to rip that contract up. Because if you try to do it in your own strength, you might bump your head a little bit. But if you step into the authority that is given to you through Christ, you then step into the authority that says, you know what, I'm ripping up this contract because my identity comes through Christ. Because he died
only
for me to
until
have
they are ready. Only until they are ready, because they could say emotional driven. I'm cutting or breaking away from this contract only to find themselves back in that space again. So one have to be ready, mentally, emotionally ready to move forward in acceptance of knowing and a self-discovery journey, or that transformational journey of knowing, learning, discovering self.
Right. Absolutely. It takes readiness. It takes willingness. You have to be, you got to be sick and tired of being sick and tired.
True. That's true.
That's true. You got to be sick and tired of being sick and tired. Well,
and that's when you take action. That's how you know one is ready. They take action, not like I'm sick and tired, but not do anything about it. They're sick and tired to the point where they're taking action. Awesome.
Right. So, because then there's this model called the stages of change. Okay. And so the first stage is called pre-contemplation. And pre-contemplation says, I ain't got no problem. I don't see a reason for me to even be doing this, right? Why are we even talking about this? Y'all tripping. That's usually where, I don't see a reason I need to change. Yes. The second stage is contemplation, where I might see something. You might be on to something. You might be on to something. There might be a reason to change, but I'm not really sure. Okay. The third stage is is when you're like, okay, preparation. Now I'm starting to take the steps to actually do something about it.
Yes.
I'm starting to take the steps to do something about it. That might mean calling a counselor. right?
Mm.
That might mean calling your pastor. That might mean calling your friends. Like, I'm tired, I'm ready to leave out this relationship. He gone.
Yes.
Can we pack my bags? I'm ready to do it this time for real.
Mhm.
I'm not
Mhm.
going back. I'm going to the shelter. We done got a emergency plan in place, and this time you've done all the work, right?
Mhm.
Preparation, you're getting stuff together, you're finalizing things, preparation. Then
Mhm.
there's action.
Yes.
I'm doing what I need to do. After action comes maintenance. I'm learning what I need to do. I'm doing it. I'm starting to meet my goals. And now I'm maintaining that progress. And then there's reoccurrence, because sometimes we do go back. Sometimes there are times when we might slip up. We might
Mhm.
go back, because this is a process. It doesn't
Yes.
happen. It's not linear. It's a progression. It, it
Yes.
goes, it goes in cycles sometimes. And so the biggest thing in understanding this dropping the mask is that you do have to be ready and understand it's a process.
Mhm.
It's a process. It's
Yes.
not necessarily going to be a linear progression. And it's yours. It's your process. My process didn't look like Lavella's.
Mhm.
Lavella process didn't look like mine.
Mhm. Mhm.
Mine didn't look like, I saw a few names that
Yeah.
popped up here. That's my mom. Hey, mom, Teresa.
Hey, mama.
You know, it didn't look like everybody else's. Your process is going to be yours. Why? Because it's your identity that's at stake.
So do not compare processes.
Mm-mm.
Mm. And once you make up your mind to go forward with it, which means take the necessary steps, because that's where fear could come in again. I don't know what the
Mm-hmm.
outcome is going to be. And then before you know it, they will derail going through and or abort going through the process. Mm.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
why I
Yes.
said this. Think about when Jesus was healing folks, he
Mhm.
always did it in a public setting.
Yes.
Their friends were around, people were around. You know, when my healing took place, there were certain things that took place in private,
Mhm.
but there were certain things that God did to hold me account, where healing took place in
Mm.
public, so that
Yes.
there were people around me who
Mm.
would hold me accountable to the healing that they witnessed.
Yes.
Oh, you was that girl that God did with.
Mhm. Mhm.
So healing, so when we are dropping these masks or shattering the mask, however you want to frame this, some of it cannot happen in isolation. It has to, there
Mm.
has to be a part of you that allows community and people to be there for you. This
This
cannot
is good.
happen on your own. You may need a counselor that's going to hold you to the fire.
Hallelujah.
Like, nope, baby girl,
Mhm.
this ain't it.
Mhm.
Oh,
Mhm.
okay, I understand. Like, one of my go-to phrases is, "Oh, how's that working for you?"
Mhm.
As a clinician, because it's not
Okay.
my job to tell you what to do. I'm going to help you understand and see different opportunities and different choices and different things. And I help you see the blind spots.
Mm.
I point out the blind spots. You
Say
didn't
that
see that
again.
there.
Say that again. I'll help you see. Say that again.
I'll help you see the blind spot.
Mm.
That's what my job is as a clinician. You can't see it. You can't see it, but as somebody who is, I'm on the outside, that's a blind spot,
Yes.
boo. That's a blind spot. You might want to check there. Check your mirror here.
Yes.
There's a car there.
Mhm.
Don't get over. Don't get over right now. Don't get over right now. And so it can't happen in isolation. This process is going to at some point involve community, and it's trusted people that you are in relationship with, that God has put in your life, and that you are learning how to. And sometimes I always recommend a video by Brene Brown on vulnerability. It's like my go-to, that teaches about how to trust, like teaches us how to operationally define what trusting is. She uses
Yes.
an acronym called BRAVING: boundaries, people who respect your boundaries, being reliable, accountable, who ain't gossiping. So the vault,
Come on. Come on.
the vault,
Mhm.
BRAV, integrity, people who are who show integrity to you, and you can maintain integrity with them, who are non-judgmental, right? And who are
Mhm.
generous in their assumptions. They're not going to go to the worst case scenario with you. They're going to be generous. oh,
Yes.
they're going to trust the best about you. And so when you are able to be in healthy relationships with people, that's going to help you drop the mask, because the people that I've been in relationship with have helped me to be the most authentic version of myself. This is me all day, every day. I'm the same
Okay.
Tahkyta right now that I am in a counseling office.
Because that was my next question for those that dealing with trust issues, and they have every right to deal with trust issues. How
Right.
do you go about choosing your accountability partners that will show you your blind spots? I know you gave a couple of them, but for one that's dealing, what are signs, 2 or 3 signs that they know they could lean on that one to be their accountability partner, that person?
Okay. So the biggest ones that for me are, can I trust you
Mm.
with, so here's the biggest one I use. My example
Mm-hmm.
is, everybody don't deserve access to your information
Come on.
about who you are,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Come on.
Everybody don't
Uh-huh.
deserve to know everything there is to know about you at any given time.
Mm-hmm.
So I use Brene's example of marbles.
Mm-hmm.
So you got marble jar people. I call my marble jar people.
Yeah.
And it's like you kind of build the relationship and you learn how to trust. And so, excuse me, when
Mm-hmm.
I'm learning how to trust folks, I might give you a little bit of information and I see how you handle that. And I'm like, okay, you get like
Mm-hmm.
6 marbles for that. You did
Mm-hmm.
well with that information. I
Okay.
might give you a little bit more and I'm like, okay, that's
Mm-hmm.
10 marble information. I'll give you 10 marbles for that.
Mm-hmm.
But then if you come to ask me for some like 15 marble information, I'm like, you ain't got enough marbles for that.
Uh-huh.
Because I haven't trusted you to that point
Uh-huh.
yet, right? And
Uh-huh.
so
Uh-huh.
it's about learning how, first knowing yourself and then kind of testing the relationship. But
Yeah.
then, can I tell you something? And are you coming to me with everybody else's business too?
Yes, true. Come on.
Are
Come
you
on.
coming to me with everybody else's business? Because if you run into me with if you run into me with their business, then that means you run into somebody else with mine. And boo,
Come
we ain't
on.
doing that.
Come on. Come on. Come on.
So
Mm-hmm.
that's important, and
Yes.
recognizing who can I trust. A lot of times, especially when it's trauma involved, okay, and when it's trauma involved, it's like someone has kind of, I don't know, I'm probably dating myself a little bit, but my grandma used to have a TV where the antennas, and if the antennas weren't adjusted right, the picture would be fuzzy. And so when if you didn't adjust the antennas the right way, we didn't get a clear picture. And so
Yes.
what happens with trauma is somebody
Mm-hmm.
knocks your antennas off.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of times when we are learning to trust, it really does involve some form of counseling, especially if there's
Mm-hmm.
trauma involved. There's just no way around it, y'all. I'm sorry. I don't mean to burst nobody's bubble, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, yes, Shanika, God will also reveal those covenant relationships in our tribes and community. He definitely revealed mine.
Yes.
Definitely revealed mine. But in some ways, I think that when we are learning how to trust in trauma, when there's been trauma involved, a lot of times it's gonna really take someone who is on who's gonna teach you how to kind of get your antenna back in
Mm-hmm.
alignment and
Come
shift
on.
your vision a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
because that takes a skill set. That
Mm-hmm.
takes a special skill set to do. And so it may take that for some folks.
Yes.
Then there's just no way, I can't skirt around that. I can't.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, well, this is good. This is rich. This is rich. Okay. So you've given signs as to how to know, learn, detect one that you could trust to be your accountability partners. And we were also now going back to, I think you did two, as in strategies that one could use to demask or drop the mask. Now we'll go on to strategy number 3 as to how one could, yes.
This one is the hardest one, though. I think this one is the
Why?
hardest one because it's the one that involves the most work, and it's the simplest one, but it involves the most work. You got to feel it.
Mm, they're not ready for that.
You know
And
what
I see that. No, no, I see. Especially when you're dealing with hurt of that loved one, that relationship, mama or dad, or it's close. It's very close.
Mm-hmm.
It's very close. We're already feeling it, so feel it in what sense?
So what here's what here it is here it is this, what you are actually feeling
Mm-hmm.
is you are feeling it as if it is still happening.
Uh-huh.
You're not
Uh-huh.
feeling the memory of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, like a punctured wound. Mm-hmm.
It's still an open wound.
Yes.
It's still open, bleeding,
Mm.
gaping. So I'm not talking about feeling an open wound. I'm talking about
Mm.
feeling the process of the healing.
Mm. Yes.
And sometimes that's
Mhm.
scary,
It is.
especially if you have, for some people, they've let the wound close and it didn't heal right.
Okay.
Have you ever
Mhm.
had to go back to the doctor and they had to reset something because
Mhm.
like you didn't let it heal, like you broke a bone and you didn't go to get it fixed? I done did this with my foot. And and I didn't go to the doctor. And I sprained my ankle. I didn't go to the doctor and I'm walking around on it and it felt better for a little bit. But then and then if one morning I woke up and got out the bed and I fell and I'm like, oh my God, what's wrong? Had to go
Mhm.
to the doctor and messed around and tore some ligaments up in my ankle and had to walk around in a boot for 6 weeks.
Mhm.
Was mad. It's like I should have just went to
Mhm.
the doctor in the first place. Because now
Mhm.
my recovery time is longer.
Oh,
See what I'm
keyword,
saying?
recovery time. Keyword.
So recovery. So I talk about this with my clients as well. I tell them, I said, you are in recovery.
Mhm.
You are in recovery. And so
Mhm.
sometimes that means we have to reset some stuff. We got to reset some mindsets. We got to
Mm.
reset some ways that you have thought about your trauma. We've got to reset some things. We've got to put things into context.
Yes.
And so you're not, what you've been used to feeling is this gaping open wound.
Yes.
Now you've
Mhm.
got to feel the healing process.
Mhm.
And that hurts.
Mhm.
But that's temporary. The thing
Yeah.
about a mask, one of the examples that the Lord gave me was like, think about like going back to like the paper mache thing.
Yes.
They use paper mache when they make like the floats and stuff in a Macy's Day Parade.
Yes, that's true. Mhm.
Right? They use that in Macy's. I'm not looking for the Snoopy float in late October and late in August.
Yeah.
I'm not looking for it in August, and
Mhm.
I'm not looking for it in January
Mhm.
after Thanksgiving has passed. You see what I'm
Mhm.
saying?
Mhm.
So what
Mhm.
ends up happening is sometimes we make something that's supposed to be temporary a permanent
Mm.
fixture in our
Yeah.
life.
Mhm. What's seasonal?
Something that was seasonal,
Mm.
a
Yes.
permanent fixture. And
Mm.
that's how we get stuck in trauma time loops.
Mhm.
Those time loops that keep
Mhm.
replaying. Every time we triggered, we get stuck in a time loop. And
Yes.
so that healing process is coming out of that time loop. It's like getting a system update. You ever tried to work on an old computer with an old
Mhm.
processor
Yes.
and you've
Mhm.
been working on a new processor at work and
Mhm.
you try to go home and
Mhm.
work on your old computer that ain't as
Mhm.
new? You need a new processor, baby.
Mhm. Mm. Mm. Mm.
You need a newer system. You need a new way of thinking because
Yes.
it's outdated. It's still stuck in the past. It's antiquated.
Mm.
And your season of healing has been long overdue. Now we've got to
Yeah.
update you. And there's parts of you that's been missing information. So now all of you has got to get access to this. And so now you can walk in your healing. But that's going to take some work.
Mm.
You
Mm.
got to feel
Mm.
it. You got to feel the process of healing.
She said outdated. Mm.
Outdated.
Mm. Mm. So the trauma pangs are outdated. The memory is outdated. Thoughts are outdated. So what I'm saying, the puncture wounds are outdated. But yet while we are matriculating in our present day with everything else,
Mm-hmm.
mm, we're stuck. Or
We're,
either part. Hmm. So we have to get unstuck.
yep.
Mm. Well, this is heavy, 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 heavy. Okay, we
Heavy.
have, yes, it is. We have, it says update and or an upgrade. So true. Powerful,
Yes.
powerful, powerful. Upgrade. Yes, yes, yes. And oh, that's my thoughts, Tori. Ouch. Ouch. That's my,
Listen,
did
I'm
you not
thinking
see me? I
myself
was like, I was like, that word out there, it was like, I'm telling you. So
and I
what she did was you brought the reality of one forward. You know what I say? Do forward thinking. You brought theirs like from the back of their mind to the front. This is you.
And the thing about this, that's crazy you
Mhm.
said that is because a lot, so when we are in trauma time, we're actually stuck here. This part of
Mm,
our brain is the
yeah.
primitive part of our brain. That's the survival
Mm,
mode. That's where the survival part of our brain is. And
mm,
so
mm,
here
mm.
is where the executive functioning of our brain is. That's where
Yes.
we make our decisions. That's where
Mhm.
that's kind of like where the computer system is. And
Yeah.
if my lines and if I'm trying to make decisions from back here, but my
Mhm.
computer's that ain't gonna work.
That's true. Hmm. They're not communicating.
No.
Mm, Ouch.
Ouch. I'm feeling myself like, ow, dang. But I don't want anybody to think that I'm minimizing their experiences or, what they've been through because I'm absolutely not. I'm
Mhm.
absolutely not. I'm absolutely not. I hear your heart. I do this for a living. I do this every single day. Like, this
Mhm.
is my passion. This is my ministry. This is what I do.
Mhm.
But I also recognize that that there are also tactics that the enemy uses to keep us stuck and walking in the fulfillment of the workmanship
Yes.
the that God has created you to be.
Mhm.
He keeps us stuck in those time loops.
Yes.
Wires are plugged into the wrong outlet. Yep.
Mhm. Mm. We have 10 minutes. Again, you're bringing and shedding light, and you're also bringing what's been in a dark place. Now you're giving us light, and what's been hidden now is revealed.
Mm-hmm.
Now we are now sensing the walls are coming down. Now our posture is changing from upright to now like, ugh, because what has been released, something has come to the forefront that we have neglected, we haven't touched on it, or it just came like, oh wow, you know. What
Mm-hmm.
would you say to those that are not only demasking, but they're dealing with some issues right now that they think that they can't get past? It has
Mm-hmm.
become not only their narrative, but in their mind they think is permanent. Again, because the thing about masking is a mask you could wear more than one layer
Right.
of a mask. And then after a while there are different style and different style of mask. You get the half mask and you can become stylish with it, because now
Mm-hmm.
you're showcasing. So what would you say to those that are dealing with present situation that they think they can't get over and dealing with deep wounds that even though God has called them and he's catapulting and advancing them into their future,
Mm-hmm.
they're literally like a bridge builder. One part of them is stuck in the past while the other is moving in the future. But they have got to let go, but they don't know how. What would you say to them?
I think the first thing that I would tell them is that one, letting go doesn't mean that you forget.
Mm,
Letting go of this experience just means that you are releasing the power of that experience. You
mm,
are literally saying, you have no more control over me.
mhm,
this experience, whatever this situation is, you no longer get to run me.
Mm.
You no longer get to control my emotions. You no longer get to control my thoughts.
Mm.
You no longer get to control my behaviors. You no longer get to control how I think about myself. You no longer get to control what I feel about myself. You no longer get to control my life.
Mm.
That's what letting go means. Because there are things that happen to us that we won't be able to forget. There are things that have happened to me. I won't forget them. But I don't let it control me
Mm.
anymore.
Mm. Mm.
So that's the first thing that I would say to you. It's your decision.
Mhm.
It's yours. You can make the choice. Once you've been presented with some information, a lot of times you feel, so a lot of you, if you're watching this and you feel weird right now, there's a concept that's called cognitive or emotional dissonance. And what that means is that you feel, I got some new information and I got some old information. The old information being the old ways and old patterns of thinking, right? But now I've been presented with some new stuff and I feel I want to side with this new stuff, but the old stuff is still talking to me. And so we feel this internal war with
Mm.
ourselves. And so that's that uncomfortable feeling that you may be feeling right now.
Mm.
You may be uncomfortable in your thoughts, and you may be literally feeling like your thoughts are going back and forth. You may be feeling like your emotions are going back and forth. What I will say to you is you have a decision to make. And you don't have to make a decision right now. I would encourage you to journal. First, brain dump, write it all out.
Mhm.
Brain dump, write it all
Yes.
out. Write everything that you are thinking out. Do not make any decisions right now. Because if you do make a decision right now, I can guarantee you that it's an emotional one. And what you
Mm.
do not want to do is do what's called emotional reasoning, which is making decisions rooted in your emotions, because then everything is becoming a fact. Everything you think is going to become is a fact, whether you're thinking
Mhm.
positive things or negative things.
Mhm.
If you want to operate from a wise mind. And what dumping does, it allows for you to get all of that out, come back to the drawing board a little bit more, and come back to the drawing board in time, and then go back and reflect on it. And you're like, okay, so now I know what I'm feeling. Now I know what I'm thinking. Now I know what decision I want
Yes.
to make. The next step would then to be call someone that you trust, whether it be call a counselor, call a friend to talk about this with that you trust, call a support person, because remember, you cannot do this by yourself. It does take community,
Yes.
whoever your community is. If you don't take anything from this, trauma is not healed in isolation because trauma happened in isolation.
Mhm.
Shame, and I'm going to go here, shame only survives and thrives in isolation. Shame can
Yes.
never survive when you are in a healthy environment around people who understand it. Why? Because you be like, oh my God, they just love me. They accept me. And it releases that feeling of condemnation. So that's why community is important.
Mm.
So if you
Yes.
are feeling that, do not make any decisions right now. Take your time. Work your process.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
That's what I would say.
Work your process. Mm. 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 My goodness, this was rich. Thank you so much, TK. Thank you so much. Please let them know how they could find you via Facebook and or your website.
So my website is in progress right now. But my website will be mindingmyvision LLC.com when it is available. And then, but on Facebook right now, it's author TK Terrell. On Instagram, you can find me on author TK Terrell. But that's how you find me right now. If you also, I'm just say this right now. I am just, if you just need someone to talk to, my time is limited, but I will talk to you. I will talk to you.
Listen,
So
any last words?
I just thank you so much for this opportunity. You've been my mentor. You have helped usher me into stepping out, writing my first book, then co-authoring with you. So my first book, y'all, is called Let Her Grow, Growing Beyond the Pain. You can purchase that on Amazon, or you can direct message me on those pages. And I am telling you, they are currently right now, I'm doing a sale. They are $15. So I'm doing a sale right now, so they are $15 for my book, Let Her Grow, Growing Beyond the Pain. But I just want to thank you so very much for just this opportunity to just let me flow and to just do what I love, which is to inspire, encourage, uplift, and help people transform their lives.
Oh, and that you did on tonight. That you did on tonight. Isn't she awesome? Isn't she wonderful? And I'm telling you, we got to do this again because this is her. This is her in her vein and her lane.
Yes.
And she's just releasing from a standpoint of healing, but she's also revealing from a standpoint of revelation where she's not only speaking to you, but she's speaking over your life as well. Okay. Again, you could reach out to TK versus her on her author's page, and again, the video will be live. It also is on her page. Please, for those that are watching later on, please do hashtag replay. Again, you can reach out to her. She's very approachable. Thank you so much for being on. I'm telling you, thank you so much for closing out with power. My God, empowering her. And even for the males, I know this was empowering you as well. Because they're like, what about us? What about us? But thank you so much for your part and what you have played and your contribution to it, powering and building her. Thank you so much. Until then,
Thank
good night,
you.
guys. God bless you.
Good night. Bye.
Bye.